Thank you so much for making some time for us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
We appreciate it. Let's get right to this incident that happened with Representative Omar. We've been able to see some of the video getting sprayed. What do you know about this incident? What's some of your reaction, and have you spoken with her?
I haven't spoken with her, but we've texted, and it's horrific. I mean, these attacks have been directly inflamed by what the president keeps saying about her. He keeps vilifying her, he keeps tweeting about her, and this is the result of that. And so I think that I'm glad she's okay. She is a hell of a fighter, and you could see that in the video in terms of how she responded. She survived wars. She's not going to let somebody intimidate her. But I'll tell you, it's a concern for all of us. I was about to go into my town hall last night with 700 people that showed up at Seattle Town Hall. And we're all thinking about this. We're all thinking about our own security just for being able to do our jobs. It's unacceptable, and this violence against lawmakers fueled by violent rhetoric that is coming from the White House is dangerous to all of us.
You've been in public service for a while. How do you feel when it comes to your safety now, and how does that compare to how you felt in years past?
Look, several years ago I had a guy with a gun show up at my door, and so we had to move, we had to prosecute him, and now, I have to have security with me. We all have to take different kinds of measures. It's not going to stop us. I was there on January 6th in the Capitol, trapped in the gallery when the insurrectionists came. The level of violence is completely unacceptable, and it is, as I said, it's being fueled, including by people in office, and I find that to be really unacceptable.
Let's touch on what we've seen happening in Minnesota, in Minneapolis specifically, regarding ICE. Given what we've seen happen, are you considering any legislative changes to ICE's activity? And then what about this funding bill? How does that come into play?
Yeah, I have a number of bills, including dignity for detained immigrants, which gets rid of warrantless arrests, which is one of the big things we're seeing in Minnesota, gets rid of private for-profit immigrant incarceration facilities that don't have standards, that don't adhere to due process. I think in terms of the funding package right now, the bill came to the House last week. 95% of Democrats voted against it, but in the House you just need a simple majority. This was before Alex Preddy's murder, and that bill passed with only 7 Democratic votes, but it would have passed anyway with just Republican votes. Now it's in the Senate, and I think that there is a growing call from Republicans, independents, and Democrats to not fund ICE and CBP without sweeping reforms. Things like no more warrantless arrests, no more masks, you have to be identified, making sure that there are true independent investigations. These are the kinds of things that I think Americans want to see. You might have seen that King County Council yesterday passed unanimously a resolution calling on Congress not to fund ICE and CBP without these guardrails, and I think that's significant. We have 2 Republicans on the King County Council, but it was a unanimous vote because everybody understands that this is completely out of control. Kristi Noem needs to resign, be fired, or impeached. She cannot lead that department. We have Republicans saying that now. Senator Tom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski have both said that. And I think that we have a culture that needs to be completely reined in.
There was some talk this morning, I think between last night and this morning, the president saying we're going to de-escalate some of this if we can. Do you think that's enough?
No, it is not enough. I'd love to see him do that, but he's the one that escalated the whole situation and is continuing to do that in different ways. But look, we're looking for Congress to play our role. We appropriate funding. We should not appropriate more funding without getting those sweeping reforms.
Are there any cases where you agree that ICE does need to act to be removing some people relatively quickly, even immediately?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's always been the case where people who are violent criminals can be deported and should be deported. Those laws already exist. Remember that ICE is only a creation post 9/11. It never existed before 9/11. That's when DHS was created. That's when ICE was created. And it's gotten more and more and more and more and more funding and less and less and less and less oversight. And so this is the result of that. And I really think that we need to look at dismantling DHS, going back to kind of the way it was before, where you didn't have FEMA and ICE enforcement together. you know, immigration enforcement used to be within the Department of Justice. That's where it should be. It's a civil system. It is not a criminal system. And people should not be treated as criminals. And we shouldn't create a system that just allows any ICE or CBP officer to go after anybody, including American citizens, and violate their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights.
As we know, we had a government shutdown just a few months ago. Facing another possibility of that occurring here, is this worth facing that other government shutdown?
I mean, these are our constitutional rights. So you tell me, is it worth protecting our constitutional rights and making sure that Americans aren't subject to illegal search and seizure? If Republicans don't think those constitutional rights are important anymore, then they can shut down the government if they want. But there is a clear path forward here that the country is asking for, regardless of party. And I think it should be a pretty easy lift for Republicans in the Senate to say, we agree, these constitutional rights are important, we're not going to shut down the government, and we're going to make sure we have those sweeping reforms.
To a story that was breaking this morning, some big layoffs happening at Amazon's, the second round here relatively recently, thousands of local jobs. What is some of your reaction to that?
Well, I saw the announcement in the paper. I haven't seen exactly where those layoffs are hitting. I know a lot of it is at the corporate level. And look, I think that we need employers who are responsibly thinking about how they support workers in this environment. The economy has been going down. You know, we have not seen the kind of job growth that we should see. We've seen higher unemployment. We've seen less growth. We've seen higher tariffs that have really affected businesses. And so I think that whole environment now where people are still not earning enough to pay for their groceries. I saw a study that just came out from the New York Times Siena poll that said that 30% of Americans don't even have enough for a $400 emergency. Over 60% can't afford education, can't afford housing. This is not the country of opportunity. That's what we need to focus on, is how to get people back to work and earning what they need to earn so that they can live.
How about we touch a little bit about what you're doing here in town? Is there anything else you'd like to add or put on people's radar?
Well, we have a really exciting field hearing happening today that is open to the public. It's at City Hall, and it's on consolidation in the food industry from farm to table. So why are your grocery prices going up? Why does everything cost more? Why does beef cost more? And if you look at all of these different sectors, it's that there's one or two or three companies that control everything. So we have testimony from a farmer, from a small business owner, from an independent grocer, all these small businesses that are being driven out by consolidation. That's at 6 o'clock tonight at Seattle City Hall, and we're super excited about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.